So, going off on another difficult topic, I'm going to talk about other forms of abuse. So, and how this relates to SR, to continence, seed retention, discipline, whatever we're calling it these days, right? And I was sexually abused and molested as a kid. That's how I talked about earlier. Another thing that happened was that I was basically abused by people in my family, people who were very close to me, people who were supposed to protect me. I had alcoholics in my family. I had people who were very neglectful, emotionally abusive. I wasn't physically abused, although, from the literature that I read about this, that, and the other, like, anyway, not going to go there. But emotional abuse is pretty bad compared to physical abuse because it stays longer, it can stay hidden, and you really have no defense against it if you're a child or if you're in a vulnerable position. So I was sexually abused before I was emotionally abused. Okay. And I was abused mostly by my mother emotionally. Okay. The people who sexually abused me were people who were not in my family, considered me their friend or whatever, and just did bad things. But I was mostly abused by my mother. Right. And she was a very heavy alcoholic, and she would just come home and drink and scream and yell and say things to me that are very twisted, dark, demonic, that you just don't say to a child. When I tell people some of the things that was said to me, it's like it makes people, they're speechless. Every time I get into the details, they're just like, yo, I used to see my mother, she would buy multiple 18 packs from the liquor store or whatever and just fill the fridge with this alcohol, several 18 packs. And she would take material out of the fridge, condiments, put it somewhere else to make room for all the beer she was drinking. And she would kill that stuff in 2 or 3 days. People don't, some people don't think that's possible. It's possible. I've seen it happen. And when people drink that much, they say and do crazy stuff. And I had tried to tell people what was going on in my house. I went to mandatory reporters. I went to friends, family members. Most of these people were other women. And when I told them, I described to them what was happening, the yelling and the drinking and so on and so forth, every single one of them assumed it was my father. My father was gone most of my life. They're like, oh, your father needs to go to jail. He needs to go to prison. He's committing a crime. You need to call CPS. You need to get out of your home right now. And I would have to stop and be like, hold up. It's not my dad. My dad's not even home right now. It's not in the picture. It's my mom doing these things. And every single one of those people, the mandatory reporters, family members, someone, they flipped on a dime and then they tried to describe to me or convince me that what was happening to me was actually a form of love and it wasn't abuse, and that she actually really cared for me and she cared about me and she was really trying to instill values and discipline in me. Okay. I don't know what drinking an 18 pack and, calling your son a bunch of names and threatening to hurt yourself and threatening to move away for no reason and leave everything behind has to do with discipline. But that was my life every day. Every day. I used to get yelled at. My mom would come home from work. I used to get yelled at from 6 to 8, sometimes 6 to 10 at night. Every day. My mom would drop everything she was doing, sit me down, and just like I'm sitting on this couch, she'd be standing up there and just be pacing back and forth, screaming at me, swigging a drink, screaming some more, give me a lecture every single fucking day. And I wouldn't get any sleep. I'd go to school with bags in my eyes. Craziness, homie. Craziness. And this is where, that stuff happens to people. They do bad things to cope, and indulging, what I'm saying, and materials and habits and stuff like that was my thing. I didn't do drugs. I hated drugs. I had family members in my life who had been addicted to and or overdosed, died of drugs. So I hated drugs. I hated alcohol for obvious reasons. I was not going to touch that stuff, you know, and being sexually assaulted and molested like that. And I was already taught these things. it became the heaviest coping mechanism, right? I did things that I thought were not normal, right? Don't need to get any details or whatever, but I would just say that, if that's your life, if you have a similar life to that, right? And you chose to go that path and it did turn into some type of addiction, just don't be mad at yourself. It's not worth it. And it's really, especially if you were abused as a kid, a lot of that stuff's just not your fault. And you need to hear that. A lot of stuff that happened to you is not your fault. Uh, I was able to discern this when I was a child for some reason. I don't know why, but I just knew the things my mom was saying to me, or that if my dad was around, the effed up things he would say sometimes, that had nothing to do with me. Had nothing to do with me, had everything to do with them. I mean, I was not a problem child, you know, but I was able to see that these people doing these things, there's the term hurt people, whatever. You know, it happens. That's true to an extent because I am not a repeater in any sense of the word. I don't abuse other people. I've never abused other people. I've never taken advantage of anybody. I consider myself a very honest man. It's like I'm a lot of things, but I consider myself an honest man. I hate being a liar. And I've never done anything that was done to me. I've never done that to anybody else, not once. You know. So when people say, "Oh, that's the thing," is when I told people about what was happening to my mom, some of my family members would be like, "Oh, your mother, she had a rough childhood." I don't give a fuck about that rough childhood bullshit. Okay. I had a rough childhood. I am not an asshole. I'm not a prick. Um, and I'm not an abusive piece of shit. Okay. I'm using some strong language here. Okay. But I hope you feel me, right? So if someone's telling you that type of stuff, oh, they're just a hurt person, that doesn't go very far. Okay, you're a hurt person. So what? If you get hurt, you're going to go hurt innocent people? No. It's one thing if you're defending yourself from the person hurting you. It's another thing when you hurting innocent people or hurting an innocent child. So that hurt person whole mystique that society puts out there is a load of bullshit. Okay. And if anybody's ever told you that the people who abused you, oh yeah, they did this because of their life they was having and so on and so forth. Hold up. No. Don't give that person a pass. That's the thing, man, is I am perfect proof that this whole hurt person bullshit is not real. Or at least it's not a good enough excuse. You have a choice of what you're gonna do with what's happening to you, right? I happen to get people in my life who decided to hold a grudge and take out their hatred on other people who didn't deserve it. Those were the cards I was dealt. Am I gonna do that to other people? I would probably feel justified. Well, no, I would not feel justified in doing that. But people would probably excuse my behavior. That's a fact. That's for dang sure. They'd say, well, this happened to him when he was a kid. So they would try to rationalize it for me if I was to act like that. Oh, this happened to him. So that's why he's this way and that way. And don't be that person. Don't be that person people make excuses for. Okay? Don't do it. Don't do it. Okay, so coming back to, we can talk more about abuse or whatever later. I will say that because this has to do with like SR and continence and discipline and so on and so forth. Again, I said it before. I mean, SR is not a cure-all. You got to actually do stuff and have hobbies and have friends and go outside and master your craft and all that type of stuff. But that is the key of discipline right there. If you could be disciplined around that, you could be disciplined around everything. And if you were abused as a kid and you did come across pornography or whatever and stuff like that as a means of coping, again, don't hate yourself. the literature across like touching yourself or whatever, masturbation and guilt, it doesn't matter if you're abused as a kid or not. You know, people who masturbate go through guilt. It's like a uniform phenomenon through cross culturally, across time, hundreds and hundreds of years, whatever of the medical literature. It's all the same thing. People report that stuff. Okay, well, just I'm not going to tell you how to feel about yourself or whatever for your actions, but I would recommend that you just get over it, pick yourself up, and keep moving. And, you know, shaming yourself, if it doesn't produce, I'll say this, if the guilt and the shame that you feel doesn't produce motion in a positive direction, it's useless and it's destructive. Okay. That's the key you need to know. So if you're going to feel these negative feelings, make sure that they're used constructively and don't overindulge in feeling bad about yourself. That's actually vanity. A lot of people don't think of it like that, but that's what it is, because you're thinking, oh, me, this, that. I'm such a bad person. I can't believe I did that, blah, 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 blah. Right? All that time you're beating yourself up, okay, you could be doing something productive and helping other people, but you're not, because you're wallowing in your own sorrows because you made a mistake that, you know, it's not that of all the things that you could do, that's like, sorry, it's not that big of a deal, right? Over time, if you make the right choice over time, as far as being consistent and like you get your streak going on, you can make a lot of progress. But like as far as mistakes go, indulging in a short-term habit like that is not the worst thing in the world. No, it's not good for you. It's not good for your spirit. It's not good for your body, so on and so forth. However, pick yourself up and do something productive. Find a way to exchange that negative energy you're feeling for something positive. And yeah, this is a longer video than I wanted to be, but hey, that's a lot to unpack. So yeah, that's it. We'll probably talk more about this in the future. Peace out.